gonna laugh and say I couldn't figure out
Okay.
how. It kept saying
Awesome.
turn your phone. I did, but my phone isn't on the automatic thing, so that sucks.
Okay.
But
But
yeah, awesome.
awesome. So, what do we get into first? What do we get
Today,
into
so
first?
oh hey, we have viewers.
Yes.
So yeah, today I wanted to talk about a few things, so I think we can kind of switch topics as we go. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot has happened since we last had our um, most recent laundry room episode. And there's been so many things, so I'm not going to try to squish everything into one episode, but I do want to touch on a few things. Um,
Okay.
so let's see what happens here. So I was hoping that we could get some comments from some of the men. So one thing that was brought up, I remember talking to you about this, like in the movie Black Panther, there's this comment or this quote that says that a man who has not prepared his children, right, for his death has failed as a father. And so I was just really wondering, that quote came to mind because I think I was reading something on social media, and it was a news clip about, I think, something else about rape, or it was about the young girl who had accused the young guy of rape, and she didn't get any prison time. And so I started thinking about, like, well, what is black men, what do you teach your sons in this world in this time of what we're going through as far as the shooting of black men, the arrest of black men, I mean, which has always happened, but I think as far as what we go through now, because we have so much access to information, it seems like it happens so
Mm-hmm.
close to home or so frequently. Um, what do you teach him about being a gentleman? How do you teach him how to handle himself in this world? How do you teach him how to treat women, in a sense? And overall, like, what is your legacy that you're leaving behind with your children? So that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. And since you're a dad,
Well, I know, right? I am a dad, three beautiful kids, and I guess my family dynamic is one that some might call hard, some might call interesting, but I mean, to me, they're still all my kids. Um, I married my wife, and she had a set of twins, and now we have another unexpected little one, and a son, which I am eternally grateful for. But the lessons that are most important that in my raising them has always been give them to God first. That from when I was little, my parents instilled in me the power of prayer, the power of faith, and that's something that I instill in them every day. Now that's one side, the spiritual side of things. On a more um, basic day to day life phase of that same question or answer to that same question, it's teaching them how to survive situations, how to stick to their guns in situations, but particularly how to survive in situations. Um, when you talk about police violence and police shootings, um, I've stared a gun in the face before. Like when my son was 4 months old, my wife and I were coming home from work, and as I was getting my son out of the car, two guys pulled up on us with guns. One with an automatic weapon, one with a handgun. Um, and the only thing I could think of in that situation was how do I survive this? with, you know, everyone that's around me surviving too. And sometimes, the man in you wants to retaliate, wants to be the big savior of the entire family and be the superhero. But, you know, in reality and in your humanness, you have to survive the situation. So it takes a bit of awareness. It takes a lot of praying because, I mean, anything can happen in that situation. Whether it's a police officer that's pointing a gun at you, or just your common criminal, or someone who's trying to rob you. Um, as we've seen even in the last like week or two, where anything on you, you reach for anything on you, and it can be considered a gun. So I tell you, all I could do is say Jesus, as I've been taught for so many years to do. And yes, I was robbed. My phone was taken. My house keys were taken. My car keys were taken. Um, my wallet was taken. Um, everything. But we survived. We survived. Um, and
Yeah.
I had to sit down because my older son, he wasn't with us during that, but I had to sit down and I had to explain all of that to him, how we survived in that situation. When I was a teenager, well, when my brother was a teenager, he had gotten in the same altercation with police officers. He was walking home one day and he had his headphones on, and he was, I guess, police were looking for somebody or something to that effect, and uh, he had walked past them, and I guess he fit the description. So they wanted to question him, but he would, because he had his headphones on, he was ignoring them. Um, and it was about 10 officers, and they all pulled their guns on him. And when you see somebody pull a gun on you and they're talking to you, but you can't hear them, the thing that you want to do is to hear them. And his first instinct was to turn his Walkman off, which was inside of his coat. That situation
Mm,
could have gone completely different. So I guess I say all of that to say the lesson to teach is so, like, it's, you can do all the right things and that situation can still end up the wrong way.
right. Right.
So it goes back to the first thing that I talked about, which is faith. Like, it's nothing that you can do but teach your kids how to have faith, and as best teach them how to react and how to survive certain situations. Um, and that's it.
Um,
Now, as
that's
regards to
big.
in regards to
Yeah.
respect,
Like I wasn't expecting that story. Like I wasn't expecting that story. That's
I,
one, foul. Seriously. And two, like I'm really
yeah,
glad you held your composure. Because that could have went
it,
left real quick. Yeah.
I had my mom's next door neighbor, because right after that situation, that night I moved in with my mom. Um, my mom's next door neighbor, who's like a army officer or something, he I guess she told him what happened, and he caught me coming outside one day. He was just like, "Man, I don't even know what I would have done in that situation." And he's some top-notch FBI agent, and it's just when you're there with your family, there's nothing like that you can imagine doing to save everybody, even though you want to. But we survived.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously you did the right thing. Obviously. That's something you don't
Now,
forget though. You don't forget that feeling. That's something you don't forget.
Nah,
But
never.
the
And
great thing is that everyone survived. Yeah, yeah, that's the great
it
thing.
is.
I think, of course, I always feel like, um, I always feel like our black men are targeted. I truly do. Just because
We
people
are.
judge a book by their cover, and because they believe what they see in TV and in media and stereotype. I always think that they're targeted. And I know that some people don't feel like that, but I truly do feel like that. And it's from within and it's from the outside as well. Sometimes we don't give ourselves a break, our own race a break.
We
But
don't.
I think you're right. You have to teach your children, right, to have faith and to believe in God and remain calm and trust, I guess, your instincts in those situations or your intuition. That's just scary. That's just really scary. I couldn't even. I think I was pulled over for a ticket, and three cops came to the car. I said, "No, y'all gonna back up because I don't feel comfortable talking to all y'all." So there was no gun, so I couldn't even imagine being stopped by an officer with a gun pointed at me. Mm-mm. No,
Yeah.
yeah, oh,
It is.
yeah,
I know you
yeah.
asked about
So
also.
go ahead.
I know you were asking about what we I guess what I teach my sons or what do I teach my children about respect for women. And you know, I think growing up we tend to we've gotten kind of like a I know me. I'll keep it on me. We've gotten like a jaded look or perspective of how to treat women. Um, and we all, I know, played silly games when we were younger, running, go get it, and all kinds of crazy games that we
Oh
thought were
dear,
fun.
take it back.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Yes, we did. We played those types of games, and it's in today's um era of Me Too and
Ooh, mm,
times up for
yeah.
the way men have misogynized workplaces, um,
Mhm.
family life. It has to go back to the lessons that we were taught when we were boys. And I had to take a look at some
Yeah.
of the things that even I was taught and I had seen, because my dad has nothing but the utmost respect for my mom, and that's where my love for my wife comes from, is from watching my dad as a boy. However, growing up, some of those things that I saw in the street, kind of jaded my reality. And now I have to be even more careful when I'm raising my boys, to have them to watch out for what their friends are telling them. When I have my son coming home telling me he's seen people in his class do this, and like it's really, yeah, and it's really really crazy. It's really really crazy, and it's setting in that this summer he'll be 9, and we really have to have the sex talk now at 9 years old.
9?
That's crazy. Yes, 9, 9. I am in very intent
Woo!
on having the sex talk. Talking to me about, or telling his mom about erections, and it's getting to that point now. It's getting to that point now.
I'm sorry. I was
You
like,
know, it's
what? 9 is early, but you know what? I can honestly say that for some reason I always ask, people ask you weird questions, but for some reason I ask very intense or intrusive questions sometimes. I'm always like, when did you lose, what age were you when you lost your virginity? And the reason I ask that is because I ask men that is because I had asked someone one day a long time ago, probably when I was like 19 or 20, and they gave a young age, a very young age. And I'm thinking, really? You were that young when that happened? And they were like, yeah, it was an older girl. It'll be like they were 10 and the girl was like 15. And you think, this is nuts. But as I
but
continued to
it's
ask that question, it's very common. And it reminds me of the movie Antoine Fisher. Always does.
hmm
But a lot of them, not too many people or men will say, oh, I was 17, 18, 23, 23. I've never heard that one. But anyway, um, it will be they were young, like preteen, and it happened. And it's always with a girl who's older. It's always with a girl who's older. And so now I'm like, okay, so I can understand why, as a mother, you're overprotective about your son in that way. Not that the father isn't, right? The father,
hmm
of course, talks to the kid and the mother about sex, yeah. But
the
nine,
fathers
I
that are
mean,
there,
if you have to have it, you have to have it. Huh?
the fathers that are there, and that's
Yes,
the
yes,
sad reality of
yes.
that. It's fathers that are
And
there.
that's what I wanted to get to. If you're not in your child's life, right? Like, how do you just leave them basically to the wolves?
Um,
How? How?
yeah,
And I'm not asking you that. I'm really not asking you
yeah,
that.
'cause
I'm just
I
saying
really can't.
that's the
I couldn't
situation, though.
imagine.
There's no one to guide them,
Couldn't
and they're
imagine.
relying on mothers to do so. And as we can see, there are women who have raised great men, and those men will tell you, my mom did a great job. And I think most of them, in my opinion or my experience, will say there was another man who was in their life or who came along at some period of their life who taught them how to be a man, or they had to learn this way or learn that way, which has
Absolutely.
helped to make them very successful. But again, I've heard a lot of young people, young guys losing their virginity at very young ages. It's shocking. It's really shocking.
It is. And for girls, a lot of times it's the same way. Somebody 12, 13 years old, somebody that's, you know,
Yeah.
15, 16, sometimes 18 years old. It is,
Yeah.
I lost
Yeah.
my virginity when I was 18. Yeah,
Gotcha.
18. Um, I I heard the speech, my whole life, keep your mess in your britches. That's what my mom told me my entire life. And,
Never
I
heard
was,
that. So way to go, mom.
okay. But I was intent, on doing what I did, and it probably wasn't for the best. It probably wasn't. I really didn't know what I was doing. Um, really didn't know the person I was connecting to. Um, and I think the reality of the situation was much bigger than what I was actually paying attention to. And I don't think kids today, you know, actually realize it. The suicide rate is skyrocketing because, oh, this boy don't love me. I thought he loved me, and
Well, that's deeper. That's deep, and I'm
It,
not trying to
it,
put suicide to the wayside. I'm not at all. But when you say somebody love me, they don't love me. I just think, we have to go back to what we were taught love is. You know, what did you teach your children love is, and what was love in your household, and what did that look like? And um,
well, a lot of these
if
mothers,
you're the
their
one who,
version of love was their kids having a whole lot of uncles.
I'm not messing with you.
I'm just saying, like, that's the reality. A lot of these kids had a lot
I'm
of
not
uncles.
messing. I'm not messing with. I'm not getting into that because, yeah, I don't have any uncles,
Uh,
and
I didn't have none
and I
either.
don't have any kids that have uncles, so I'm not getting into that. I mean, my parents were together and they moved on and they separated and went, into other relationships, but because of my father being very present in my life, he was my only dad. There was no uncle. Yeah,
Hmm.
how close it came to it just wasn't going to happen. And me being a daddy's girl, just being loyal and tried and true. And that's just the way it was for me. And for my dad, there was no stepmom. Like my sister's mom, I remember us bumping heads at one point because I'm like, you know, how significant are you? Yeah. But, I grew up and, I respect her and everything. But as a kid, I had one mom, one dad. And those are who children are usually loyal to, point blank period. So I don't know uncles. I got a lot of uncles, and my grandmother, she birthed them. She birthed them. Um, I wanted to also talk about, if we could shift gears. Um, I wanted
Oh,
to talk about um a couple other things. So there was one thing. I don't know. You get to choose. So there was two things. There's either like the news propaganda. There's this reel on Angela Ray's page about how the news said, we're very serious about the authentication of the information that's being produced by such and such newscast. And then it goes on to like nine different squares on the screen and they're all saying the same thing. Where we're very concerned about the troubling what did they say? Oh, the trouble trending irresponsible one-sided stories. That's what they said. That are being broadcasted in the country, but they're all nine stations are saying the same thing verbatim in all nine different stations across the country. And I'll tell
right.
you from my opinion, I stopped watching the news. I was in here the other day, and somehow I think I was watching for the weather, and I don't even watch for the weather, but anyway, I watched for the weather, and the news came on, and it started telling me about stuff that was happening. And this was the other day when they had the YouTube shooting. Was it yesterday
Hmm.
or the day before?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the
The day before.
YouTube shooting. Yeah, it was yesterday, wasn't it?
It,
I think it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. But
it
anywho,
was in
they had the
it was in
YouTube
the
shooting.
afternoon.
Yeah. And all this negative stuff started coming on, and I turned the TV. So, you know, a business partner of mine said, "Hey, when you get up in the morning, listen to something motivational, yada yada yada." And I usually, on my commutes to work or something, I listen to sermons or radio or whatever. But
Hmm.
I used to get up every morning and I would always watch the news first thing on 5:30 whenever I get up. And she's like, "Don't watch the news. Watch how your overall day changes. Why would you allow your brain to be basically filled up with that toxic information before you even get your day started? It changes your whole mood." So, one, at that time, I already started to stop watching certain news stations because of either the way that
Fox
they
5.
delivered messages about. Uh-huh, exactly. And I love Allison Seymour, but especially because Julie left. I was like, see, you know what? I gotta go. But anyway, I started watching Fox 5 because the way they relayed information. And then I was watching Channel 7, and Channel 7 was on some BS too. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to listen. I'm not going to watch the news anymore. And it did. It changed everything for me. When I get up in the morning, I'm meditating, prayer, I write, I do whatever I got to do in the morning. But the information that they're feeding us and the way they're feeding us information, I'd already seen it, but I just had to commit and say, you know what? Whatever's important, unfortunately, I'm into one another thing, but it will come up in my phone. It'll
Hmm.
come in my phone. If something happens, I'll get a notification from the news app that's on my phone, and it'll pop up saying that something happened, like the shooting at YouTube or whatever, people down there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue are doing. I'll
Hmm.
get I'll get a pop up about it. I haven't missed anything. Haven't missed anything, and
Right.
unfortunately, it has changed my overall morale. But I think that they're constantly feeding us BS, and it's all in cahoots. And I'm not surprised that they all drink from one well.
You know, I, I'm not sure if I saw it somewhere, if I read it somewhere, or what, but there was a guy he was talking. He was, I guess, talking about how to be more productive in your day. And what he said was, what you spend the first 30 minutes of your day doing, the first 30 minutes changes, will change the trajectory of your day. So in the morning, it's, Bible, trying to find meaning in the day, trying to find purpose in the day, try to do whatever you can not to be a pessimist. Because
Right.
in the world that we live in today, and even some of the news that gets, sent to my phone, Trump did this, Trump did that, Trump, like all day long is all I see. It can be depressing if you take that in. If you see things like mass shootings here, mass shootings there, and that's all you think is going on in the world, like you'd be like, oh my God, this world is so crazy. But you know, you never get any news flashes about the good that's happening, the good that people are doing.
Exactly. And that's what it is.
And,
You don't get
and
anything from them
they feed us
uplifting.
fear, right?
Yep.
So, the news, sometimes I
Yep.
even, I want to take it off my phone. I don't want it to feed me anything because if it's not directly affecting me, and not that I don't want to know what's going on in the world, but only to a certain extent, not 24 hours a day, not 24 hours a day.
Right.
So,
And,
you
and
know,
and that's the truth.
it's,
Yeah,
it's
that's the
definitely
truth.
all propaganda. So,
Yep.
and you're absolutely
Everybody has
correct.
an
They all
agenda.
drink from that. Mhm. I think they might get an email that says, "Look, this is the script that you read for the day. If something bad happens in the news, this is what we need to read to make it all right." One of the shows that I
Of course.
appreciate. So, say that again.
Oh, I was agreeing. Never mind.
Oh, one of the shows that I really appreciate that I guess I don't even watch it much now anymore, but Scandal. And what Scandal taught me is that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you would never ever really hear about. And they get those little emails that say this may be what has happened, but this is what you're going to say. And I
Mm-hmm.
think from time to time we all experience it at our jobs. I know I work at a school and we experience it where, this is what happens in a school, and okay, but on paper this is what that looks like. And that's what we get every
Right.
day, no matter what has happened.
Sorry. Yep. Exactly.
We get what they're going to tell us it looks like.
Right.
No.
And it's the same for every school, every corporation, everything. It's how do you put people at ease, you know? How you know, where this is what happened, this is what didn't happen. Unless you're like a teacher and you bring a gun to school, they're still gonna say what happened. I was and I say that because I was in New York and there was a teacher's aide who brought a gun to school, but and they basically it was like we don't they disowned her, you know, hands off at that point. They're like, she's in it by herself. We don't need to spin this story. This is just what happened. She's on her own. That sort of thing. But otherwise, everyone's gonna be in CYA mode, and
Hmm.
that's just
Absolutely.
what happened.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah.
this is
You
gonna
know,
happen.
I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid though. I'm sorry. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right, right. Um, the last thing I wanted to talk about was this topic that I saw online. And it said, do women and men marry out of love or marry out of convenience? And I'll go first. So,
Oh,
so I'm not
listen.
married. I think that I of course uh wholeheartedly believe that whenever I decide that I do want to get married, that it will be out of love, unconditional, pure love uh, for that person, not because I have established a certain level of self or all the things in my life have come together and created this world for me to be a part of, or for someone else to be a part of. And then, okay, now I've checked these boxes. Okay, I'm ready. That sort of thing. That's not going to work because what that says is that whoever I'm dating or with or happen to meet during that period of time, that person's going to end up being my husband. And that bothers me on so many levels because I believe in a connection that has nothing to do with convenience. And for someone to love me the way that I want to be loved, it definitely can't be convenience. Like I feel as though I would know something was off because the energy was off. So because of that, I feel like I wouldn't. However, I brought this conversation up to a few people, and they were all men, and I think it was like 60% of the room said, yeah. For multiple reasons, they married for convenience. And then, you know, there was a couple, or a few, 40% of people who were like, no, I married the woman that I love. I think that's awesome. I think the people who said they married out of convenience was because I guess the person that they loved when that woman wanted to be married, they weren't ready. Like they weren't ready to be husbands. So she basically left, and they're years later now. Let's talk about several years later. This man's ready to be married, but that woman's already married. So who do you marry then? You marry out of convenience. And another man said that he married to level up. And I thought women did this, but I know that men, I know people try to marry the right, like equally yoked. You don't want
Okay.
somebody who's not motivated, who's not about their business, who's not responsible. If you're all these things, right? I mean, even if I wasn't
Hmm.
responsible, at least let one of us be responsible. I want somebody to balance out my flaws. But when a
Absolutely.
man says that he married up, I'm thinking, okay. So I'm like all wrong. I'm very independent, but I still think that at least the man should feel like he should be a provider. Not saying he has to take care of everything, but he needs to know that's a part of his role and responsibility in whatever house it is we're in. And men is just like, I married up and, I went from eating ramen noodles to somebody with a six-figure salary, and I'm fine. I love my wife. But no, I didn't marry the woman that I love most. And he's happy. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, so what happens in a few years when you realize you married for money and, and convenience and not for love? So I was just I wasn't surprised that men said yes because I feel like a lot of men do that, and that's just my perspective coming from a woman. I feel like a lot of women do that as well. They do. Um,
They do.
Several different kinds of situations that could happen. Marrying for security, marrying for whatever the situation is offering them. So I don't think it's one sided at all. When I would never marry out of convenience, then I'm not gonna be happy. And then they saw that everybody, a lot of people were like, I'm marrying for convenience. This is what works. Like we work well together, we get stuff done. Yeah, this is what's gonna happen. I'm sorry, but yeah,
Okay. All right. Um, I think people in general get married for like a bunch of different reasons, and like you went on to describe all the many different situations, but I feel like the proof is in the pudding. Like, you know, my parents have been married for 35 years. My dad tells a story of how, and I hope he doesn't kill me for telling the story. I'm not sure how many people are listening, but he tells a story of how when he first met my mom, like he camped outside her door of her apartment to make sure, like in an attempt to get
no.
her. He
Secure your
was
spot.
absolutely, absolutely. Like he was that guy. He was definitely the romantic, and you know I've been known to be that way. I haven't taken that step, but I've been known to be that way too. And it's you know um, go hard for the ones that you love. Now I say that to say that I've been in several relationships in my life, and when you originally posed this question to me, I think it was early in the morning we were talking, and you said, or I told you, or the question I asked you was, what does love to these people mean? Um, because I, the one you love the most doesn't necessarily mean the one that you're attracted to the most, and not only that, what does love mean when it makes you want to get married? I think that's a very different feeling. I got married when I was 29. Um, but I had wanted to get married when I was, and I'm being completely honest, when I was 18. And I know that, you know, sometimes that feeling of love can make you want to take those drastic steps. But the love that makes you want to marry somebody and make that marriage last is a deeper connection and it's a deeper commitment. It's y'all or nothing. And unless you like have that with someone, you really shouldn't get married. But again, I started this off by saying the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in how long that marriage is going to last. Some of these people that you talked about, that have gotten married for these reasons other than love, are going to be divorced in 5, 10. There's people who've been married 20 years and end up getting divorced just because the marriage was never really based on love in the first place. And
I agree.
when you get married for convenience, you'll understand like some guys will get married for money, money runs out. Some guys marry a woman for her looks, and eventually a woman's looks are going to change. Like, shoot, your looks are going to change. Some men like to think they're going to
It's going
be
to,
more distinctive
yeah.
as they get older, but you won't get saggy everywhere. You're not going to be
Oh
as
my
attractive. You're
God.
going to be fat.
So
You
basically,
know,
when it
like
becomes
it's all kinds of
inconvenient
crazy
for
stuff is
you,
going to happen. Hmm?
so basically, when it becomes inconvenient for you, that marriage will end
Right.
because it wasn't built on anything
The
solid.
ties that were bringing it together are now beginning to wither. Like when you marry someone for love, that love, I feel like it
Well,
transforms
that's
as you get older.
let's ask the people who are watching. If you're married, put a one in the comments. Hold on now.
Yes.
I'm waiting. If you're
I think
watching
the
and you're
person
married, put a one in the comments. If you're single, put a three in the comments.
who
Hmm.
yes,
Hmm.
please add to this conversation.
I want
If
to
you married
know
for
because I
love.
got some really good feedback. I got some really good feedback from men. I mean, older men too. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know, as a woman, as me, I love hard. And I know when I communicate, through this dating situation. Boy, I hate dating. So, but through dating a man or being in a relationship with a man, I know when they're not, you know, interested in a long relationship, and that's perfectly fine. My thing is, I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. You don't like eating ice cream? Don't eat ice cream. Don't do it. You don't want to do, don't do it. Because if it's true, if it's real, it'll come from the heart, and it won't have to be something I'll ever have to beg for. So, so when it came from the older men, and I do have an expectation of men who are older. I feel like you're older and at a certain age, especially a man in his 40s, you should be more certain about what it is you're doing and who it is you're with. You should have some sense. These people don't always have sense, and that's just me. That's just my perception, and
Yes.
that's just me. But I love
Age
talking to
ain't
older people.
to put a number.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I said age isn't anything but a number.
Well, you think
It
you
has
got some
nothing to
years.
do with
Like you've been
maturity.
playing ball for some years. You should have some
Hey,
game with you. You've been in this thing for a while. You should know something. You should know something. Whatever.
some
It don't
men
matter.
as well as some women have played the game the same way for 20, 30 years. Just do the same things over and over and over and over and over and
I
over
guess
again.
we
And
I
it
guess
never
we are our
changes.
habits. Yeah, I guess we are our
Yeah.
habits. You are your habits. So I love having conversations with older people who have those gems to drop. So I'm in a
Hmm.
cab and the cab driver says to me, I don't know why, but everybody seemed to think that he's like, are you Haitian? I'm like, Haitian? And so, no, I'm not Haitian. And from there, the conversation goes on. He's like, so are you going home to your man? I was like, no, I'm not going home to your husband. I said, no, I don't have a husband. He said, yet. I said, okay, yet. Here goes nothing. He starts to go on about this conversation. He says, um, if you're dating, he's giving me advice. And I'm like, okay, thanks for the advice. And I enjoy it because I'm all things mean something. And so the man dropping these gems on me, things that I know, things that I probably need to hear or whatever, reminders. I feel like it's the universe talking to me and telling me things. So I'm always like happy when these conversations happen because the old people will school you if you let them school you. So the man says, I met my wife in 1974. Okay? I
That's
did
wild.
not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm?
yeah. I met her in 1974. I proposed to her in 1977. I did not
Okay.
marry her until 1979. So 5 years. Okay?
Okay.
They went on to, I think, have like 3 children. He says,
Hmm.
I feel like it was longer. Like he married her in 1980. But anyway, so I say, so you waited that long to 1974. I proposed in 1979. I didn't marry her in 1981. Here we go. All right. So I was like, really, 5 years? He said, yes. You have to get to know the woman. You have to learn how she walks, how she talks, how she eats, how she prepares food. He
Oh
starts to go
wow.
on and on about all
Okay.
these things, and how all these small things that people would think about but don't really put a lot of weight into. How
Hmm.
she takes care of her parents and things like that. He starts to go on about that. He says, we've been married ever since, haven't had any problems. Uh, at one point in time, he took a break from them to go work for 10 years. I'm thinking, wow, 10 years. And he says, doesn't matter. I take care of my kids. I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. I work. I come home, and it's like me and my wife were never separated from the beginning. And I go, yeah, that's a wife. That's a wife.
That is
And
a heck of a commitment. Man.
that's a wife. I think he went back and forth, but overall, majority of his time was spent somewhere else working so he can make money and take care of the family. And he was just telling me, things like, don't wait to have kids. I was like, I'm gonna wait as long as I can. And he was like, doing all these things. But the most important part was he was just saying how you need to pay attention to the person you choose to spend your life with. And um, and these things you should watch and focus on and run your household. That's how they're going to treat you. That's how they're going to raise your children. And it takes time for that to happen. So for me, convenience isn't even an option. It's
Yeah.
not an option because I feel like convenience wouldn't last 30 plus years. Just
Exactly.
wouldn't. And I believe that there's a reason to be divorced, but I'm not the person to say, oh well, if you keep leaving the toilet seat, that's it. I'm not an advocate for it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it has to be authentic and it has to be real. And I would be really interested to see um, how those relationships are doing 10 years from now. I mean, probably won't be here. So yeah.
Yeah. For this guy that you were talking to, he said he left his wife for 10 years and came back, and it was like they would never separate. And some marriages don't even last 3 years. And
Yes, that's
it,
true.
it's crazy. How do you, like,
It was for work, and I think other people from other
culture?
countries, they operate a little differently than us. We are a country of convenience. We really are. And we are a country, we are a people of this looks good. This means I've made it. People will say, well, once I get a good job, buy a house, get yada yada done, that's when I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna find me a wife. Not a soulmate, not a best friend, whatever. I'm gonna find me a wife or find me a husband. And you just think, hmm, okay. I'm very lyric. I'm very like, people like that concern me
Americans have
because
lost
it
their
fits the picture. It fits a picture. Doesn't mean the picture's perfect or anywhere
right.
near being satisfied with the picture. It just means it's I'm a checkbox now.
It's
Yeah.
but and you're right. It's a checkbox, and it's lost its importance. Um, and I think that's something that other countries emphasize way more than we do. Um, there are countries who find their who the family matches the husband and the wife together, and so forth and so on. But I feel like every culture except American cultures place very high importance on the institute of marriage, and we just, like you said, just treat it like a checkbox. Oh, if we get married, we can get divorced and annulled in less than a year, and we can go on about our business. Let's have a wedding, have a party, and nah, you know, my marriage isn't about a wedding. We haven't had a wedding per se. Um, I was married in front of the people who are most important to me, and it's
Yes,
a whole
yes.
lot that goes with a wedding that just kind of annoys me anyway. Because I'm not about to feed a whole lot of people that I don't like. Some of them that I don't even really like, and it's just no. You talking about 30 and $40 plates? No good. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
cannot. But
200 people, a
yeah,
church, a limo.
no, no. That's there won't when I finally do have a wedding, there won't be 200 people and it won't be a church. I've never been hell bent on
Yeah.
a wedding,
Do
but
destination weddings. They're cheaper.
yes, yes.
They're cheaper.
Um,
Mm,
but
interesting.
I'm just glad that I had the opportunity to see an example of a great marriage. Um, you know, my wife as well had the opportunity to see what, a great marriage looks like. Her parents have been married for 20 plus years. So,
That's
it's,
awesome.
I can't wait to see what the next 20, 25 years of our life looks like as we're watching our children grow up, as we're teaching them that, the morals and values of honesty, and teaching them that find love, and kind of show them some of the mistakes that that we made as we were getting older, so that they don't have to fall in those same traps. And then at the same time trying to let go of them so they can experience some of life for themselves. um, they're already starting to talk about, crazy as it is, what type of person they want to marry and all that good stuff. um, while we're here, I see there's like a couple people that are signed on, and I just want to say hi to them. Kiera Thurston, hello, Miss Lady, Dynasty. I see you from all the way in whatever state that you're in now. Shington, what's going on, man? I haven't talked to you in forever. Um, Masa Barker, Miss Sophia, hello. How are you, sister-in-law? Um, Kenneth and Aaliyah, Pastor John. I don't know if you're still watching, but I see your name on this list. DJ, I see you too. Josh, quite a few people. Auntie Bridget, Miss Thomas, Miss Moore, Jennifer, Terrell, Lester. We appreciate you. Yeah, that was a long list, right?
That's awesome.
How you doing,
That is
Miss Danielle Hollins? And
ah, yes,
so,
indeed.
did we
There's
forget
quite a
anything?
few people. Yes, a lot of people. That's awesome. We really appreciate it. If you've just stepped into the laundry room, and if you're married, we want you to drop a one in the comments. If you're single, drop a three in the comments. And if you're in a relationship, drop a two in the comments. We have a question to ask you.
Yes.
We want to be nosy. We want to figure out what's going on in your
Dude,
house.
did you marry for convenience or did you marry for love?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
us know.
And you know what? I don't, I don't got nobody admitting to marrying out of convenience. And if I don't want to know what that feels like. I really don't
Yeah,
know what that
that's
feels like.
because you're asking on on Facebook.
But I
I'm
don't
fine.
want to know what that feels like. I don't want to know what it feels like to be proposed to out of convenience.
So
That's awful.
I think the only admissions of I married out of convenience is somebody on here that would be divorced and has seen how that situation has played out and now can admit that, okay, yeah, I only married this person out of convenience of being with them. Um, but I'm telling
Yeah.
you, it's the benefits aren't as great as you may think they will be. The proof will always be in the pudding.
Mm,
They will be.
that's awesome.
So,
But that's
uh, closing thoughts from all that
choose
we
your
talked
life
about
partners wisely.
today.
Choose your life partners wisely. Be mindful of what you ingest, not only into your body, but into your mind. Choose good
Mm,
things over bad, over negativity. Um, and whether you're a parent or not, there's always somebody watching. So you're always going to be an example to someone.
mm. So there's a rapper that I'm starting to grow fond of, Nipsey Hussle.
Oh yeah.
All
Mhm.
right, one
Lauren
of the
London's baby daddy.
yes, one of the songs on this new album, there's a quote that is a play on words, but it makes a lot of sense. And he says, "No longer stay safe, stay dangerous." And and it's the play to say be on the offensive instead of always having to play defense. And in our earlier conversation about you know what I'm teaching, you know my children, and yes, I'm teaching them to survive, which is mostly defensive. But if it's ways to put yourself in situations that are the best for you instead of just moseying through life in and out of whatever. Um, Secondly, like you said, make that first 30 minutes of your day um, intentional. Make it, encouraging, because that first 30 minutes of your day, changes the trajectory of your day. And, um, lastly, know that, happiness and love and should not be a temporary feeling. It should the decisions of what you do with love shouldn't be based on temporary feelings or um, butterflies or puppy love and all of that. There has to be some fundamental lessons of love that start with loving yourself that cause you to make the decision to want to love somebody for the rest of your life. Um, this is the cheesiest love line I've ever heard, and it was from Wedding Crashers, but it's very true. Um, the person you marry should be, um, what is it? The recognition of your counterpart in someone else, or
Hmm.
basically, I want to marry some. I'm married to someone who has the same values as I have.
Equally yoked.
Very much so. Thank you for putting it so simple. Um, but it doesn't, it doesn't get better than that. Being, loved by and loving someone who um, is equally yoked. Um, I'll give you the
Absolutely.
opportunity to close this out.
Oh my gosh. All right. So this is our first Facebook Live Laundry Room episode. We want to thank all of you for joining us and Phil,
Thank you. Thank you.
please come back next time.
Yes, we should be together next time with Thornell and Meek and all of them.
Yeah.
I hope they see this video and get y'all lives together, man. For real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Facebook didn't
If
ask me to
you
tag them, but I'm gonna tag them anyway.
mm, if you want to see other episodes of The Laundry Room, they can be found on YouTube. It's a link, right? On your page? Mm-hmm.
There
Yep.
is a link. I don't think it's on my Facebook page, but it is on my Instagram page.
On the Instagram page. Well, we're on YouTube. So join us next week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having fun with us. We encourage interaction. So next time, maybe we'll do some trivia. Okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Awesome. Bye, Matt.
Later, lady.
All right.